Thank you. All right, everyone. Welcome back to day 2 of our Your Wish is Your Command Master Series. This is technically day 3 of the Master Series, but this is our second meeting, which is very exciting because I believe the first 3 audios of Your Wish is Your Command are the most powerful of all of them, because this is really where you get to understand the basics, and that's what the rest of the audio series is about, right? So I would like to open the floor to anyone who wants to share any questions they may have, or any cognitions, meaning any understandings that you received from learning the basics. And then we can spend the rest of the conversation just going over what these basics actually mean. So does anyone have any specific questions about the basics, or do they have any ideas that they want to share and go over together? You could just unmute yourself. Come on, don't be shy. I don't bite. None of us bite here.
Hey everyone. Um, just want to share a couple things that came up with listening to audio 2. All right, so the first thing that came up was there was a question in the beginning where someone was like, are the books by teachers who don't have the desire to become rich, but they just have a desire to teach concepts? Or is it okay to listen to those people? And Kevin Trudeau talked about how some books just tell really good stories that can be inspiring, but they may not be true stories that happen to real people. He gave some examples of some books like that. And it made me think of how in childhood, like in the American school system, a lot of early educational experience include teaching fables, which are designed to um, basically tell a story that has some kind of moral dilemma. And by the end of the story, through what the characters go through, the idea is that children are supposed to learn a moral lesson that they can embody or take with them. Um, Even if they haven't experienced the situation yet, I guess the idea is that they would retain the lesson from the story, and then when the time comes, they would apply it. But I just think it's interesting how much of the educational system, because that's the professional background that I came from. I used to be a classroom teacher. So I just think it's interesting how that system operates is completely opposite from how Kevin is saying true learning actually happens. And that's actually a part of the reason why I left the school system. I hadn't been introduced to you as your command before leaving, but that's just something that came up. And something else that came up was how he said it's not just about sitting in a room and meditating all day and just thinking that that's what's going to get you what you want, but that is a part of it because the meditation is the feminine energy of receiving, and then and being in the rest mode, and then the masculine energy is taking those aligned action steps. So we need both of those in order to get to the goals that we desire. A couple other things came up, but I'll give the floor to anyone else who has something to share.
Yeah, I love what you shared so far. Number one is, who do you listen to, right? That's the main basic. And what came up for me, right? How you were able to connect it to your own experiences of being a school teacher. I connected it to my experiences of health and wellness, right? How we go to doctors to do our annual checkup, but it's like, my doctor is balding, he got wrinkles, he's a little bit overweight, all these things. And it's like, why am I going to this person who has this quote unquote expertise um to tell me if I'm healthy or not? But like, they don't embody the results of good health. You know what I mean? So I just really resonated with that basic of who do you listen to? They must have what you want. And if they don't have what you want, then maybe look somewhere else, right? And I love the point that you bring up about the theories. There's a part, I believe it's audio 3, where he goes into the story of explaining how what people think are facts are actually other people's opinions. And the only things that are factual are things that wouldn't change, right? Like saying the sky is blue in the daytime, you know, or saying that, cars have wheels so people could drive. That is a fact, right? So, but then when you say BMWs are ugly, now everyone thinks BMWs are ugly. It's not a fact, but it's an opinion, right? It's something that can change, and it's something that may be true for some people's taste, but what if you're someone who loves BMW? Then you wouldn't think that, right? So if you're going based on what everyone else thinks, oh, well, if a BMW is ugly, I shouldn't own one, then you wouldn't be following your dreams. You wouldn't be following your truth. You wouldn't be following your desires. You know what I mean? That's the deeper understanding that I got from that basic. And also how you brought up the ability to just be able to learn, right? Be able to learn and be able to understand. Understand within a deeper level that you should focus on what you want mentally, but you have to take some kind of action based on what you've thought about, right? The masculine and the feminine do work together, and the how and the why also work together. But having a strong understanding, a strong just resonance and knowing of what is meant for you, that's that feminine energy, then will allow you to act properly or more aligned with what you want in the masculine when you spend enough time understanding what you're feeling and what you desire in the feminine. So that's why that the training balance skill is more of heavy on the why, heavy on the thinking, heavy on the feeling. But if you work all the time, you're not gonna get as far as you could if you focused and understood why you want that work to be done. Did I go too deep there, or are we all on the same page here?
Definitely on the same page. That resonates for sure.
Yeah. Anyone else want to add? Have any questions? I know you said you all wanted to add some more stuff also later, Joy. Go ahead, Antoine. Yes.
I have a question about teachability. No, no, about the training balance skill.
Mm-hmm.
Because Kevin Trudeau said that successful people on the road toward the success works a lot of time, 12 hours, 14 hours, things like that, when they were where we are right now. And at the same time, we have to put at least 90% on the train on the wide side of the training balance skill.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't understand how we can do those two things together, putting a lot of efforts on working and at the same time putting the emphasis toward the wide side of the training balance skill.
Mm-hmm. So, in case you didn't get to listen to the audios just yet, 90% of the focus, 99% of the focus is really supposed to be on why, right? Why do you want things in your life? Why do you desire the things that you do? So the 1%, or what most people believe, is that you should do 50-50. You should be learning how to do certain things and learning how to think properly. But the successful people understand that you want to spend most of your time focusing on the thoughts, how you're thinking, what you want, how you're feeling. And then to Antoine's question of, but most successful people will spend 12 hours a day doing work. So, Joy, do you remember, did you say the etymology of the word work, or is this something different? Someone else I'm thinking of.
That's someone different. We can look
Okay.
it up real quick.
So it's not in English actually, but it's in Spanish, the word trabajar. Trabajar. And the translation of that is, I don't want to butcher it now, but it's something like to slave away, right? It's to do something that's not pleasurable, right? The actual word to work. But, in modern times, to work does mean to put in hours, to put forth effort. And this is all on the how side, right? But when you're looking at successful people who have an obsession, who have a desire, who constantly think about, let's say, for example, making money, this is what they focus on the most. This is all they think about. The feeling of making more money is like it gives them vitality, it gives them a drive, it gives them motivation. All of these words too were listed on the why side: the feeling, the thinking, the why, the motivation. That's what the people are focusing on. But from the person on the outside perspective, it looks like they're just working all the time. It looks like they're just doing things all the time. So the understanding comes when you're looking at what you really want. In reality, nobody else knows what you want. Only you know what you want. And it's very different feelings when you're doing work, right? So a Google search, it said the Spanish word trabajar means to work. Um, yes, so the vulgar Latin term, which the word comes from, means to torment, right? It means a torture instrument, to work. People that are successful, they do not feel tortured. They feel driven. They feel motivated. They love what they do. They will never say, oh, I'm working 12 hours. People that hate what they do say, I'm working 12 hours. I have to put in all this work. I have to work hard. And that's the myth that Kevin talks about. People think that they have to do 50-50. Like, of course, you have to know what you want. You have to love what you do. But I also have to work hard to get it. But those people that are successful in getting what they want, yes, they are loving what they do. They're thinking about it 24/7, and they're doing anything to get what they want. And the one more thing to add to your question, to answer your question, was when Kevin tells the story of the guy that pushes his head underwater in the pool. The guy tells him, Kevin asks him, what am I missing? What is the one thing that can get me anything I want? And the guy comes and they're in the pool hanging out, and he pushes Kevin's head underwater, and he's holding him down under the water. And then he's like, okay, like, you want to let me up? And then he starts kicking. He starts trying to get out from holding him down. And then the guy finally lets him up like a minute later, and he's coughing, like he's choking on the water. He's like, what the heck? And the guy tells him, when you need something as badly as you just needed air, that's when you'll get it. And that's the feeling, that's the desire, that's the motivation, that's the why. When we have a strong why, when we have a strong reason behind everything that we do, then it's not like we're doing work. We're not focusing on, oh, like, I got to check off this to-do list. All the things that we think about are going to be pleasurable, right? The main goal that everyone should have is to feel good now. And when we're feeling good, everything we do feels good. Therefore, good things happen. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, yeah, it's not the activity, but
Mm-hmm.
the attitude toward the activity that really matters.
Yes, the attitude 100% matters. I think one of the nuggets of gold is to be enthusiastic. If you want to feel enthusiastic, act enthusiastic, right? There's another one. It says, I'd rather hire someone who's enthusiastic than someone who's a good worker, than someone who knows how to do the job. You're enthusiastic. Like, think about people in your life that are enthusiastic, and then look at their success, their level of success. And I'm pretty sure that list is very short. At least in my life, that list is short. But if you like really, really consider like, who can I think about that's always feeling good, that's always, high energy, always enthusiastic, always looking on the brighter side, and look at their success. And then look at the people who don't act enthusiastic, who are pessimistic, who are always complaining, and look at their level of success. And that is the result of applying the training balance scale. If you do what you love, you'll never work a day in your life. And it don't even matter who said it, but it's true. If you do what you love, you will never work, right? Because we just covered work, the root Latin meaning is a torture instrument, to be tormented. Okay? So successful people, they don't work. They do what they love. And I think that is the key to everyone's success. And people hear this on a regular basis, but they think that's too simple. How am I supposed to do what I love and make money? They start thinking about the how. You heard the question I just asked? How am I supposed to do what I love and make money? They start thinking on the wrong side of the training balance scale instead of just saying, you know what? I'm trusting the universe. I'm going to do what I love and everything will work out. That's what successful people do.
Okay, thank you, Alisa.
You're welcome. I love this concept so much because it for me personally it relieved a lot of worry. It relieved a lot of anxiousness. I'm someone who works hard. I was just talking with one of my coworkers, and we were saying how we're people that just do things. Like we have an idea and we're like, all right, what we got to do to get it done? We just go and do and do and do. But sometimes there is nothing to do, and then you start worrying in your head like, what are the things I have to do? And that worrying just throws everything off. But when you're just like, okay, I know this is going to work out because this is what I say I want, this is what I'm going to focus on, then later you start getting ideas like, oh, I can make it happen like this, or I can make it work like this, or and you just have to be in that flow state. It's all about how you feel when you are doing anything. Exactly. It's all about the attitude. All right. So, anyone else have questions? Or did anything come up for anyone while we were talking about these two concepts of like the training balance scale, the how versus the why? Um, even who do you listen to, or um we didn't cover the being teachable yet, did we? Being teachable or the steps of knowingness. And today, when I sent the message to Telegram, I did that quote of, you don't know what you don't know. And there, there's a lot behind that. And when you begin to accept that, there's a lot of things that go on. Like even right this very second, as you're here with us live or as you're watching this recording, there's things going on in the world that you would never have a clue. You would never even it just it's happening, it's going over your head, and then you're going to hear about it sometime in the future. And that happens every single day. And because of that understanding that you don't know what's possible, everything becomes possible. And it kind of just gives you a relief, a feeling of letting a miracle happen at any moment, because you just never know. You never know what could happen. And when you start to live that way, you start to be enthusiastic and you start to just be willing to accept change, be willing to discern who you listen to, and don't listen to people just because of your respect, your relationship, or you feel obligated because maybe they're older than you, or you think that they know more than you. Being willing to just accept that there's things you will never know, and being okay with that. I feel like once I got to that level of understanding, that's really when my life transformed, because things happen to me all the time. I'm just like, what in the what in the world? Where did this come from? This came from like left field, and it happens every day, every single day. So Joy, did you want to ask the remainder of your questions, or like just talk more about the things that you wrote down?
Oh, yeah, thank you. Something else I thought about that Kevin said when desire goes up, willingness to learn goes up. And I feel that for sure, but I think that, and I think he said this in other ways when he talked about the training balance scale and everything that is on um, the thought side of it. But I'm not sure if he used the term specifically belief. And belief is also needed, um, belief that you can achieve whatever that desire is. Because, right, if one desires to become a model, because they see the fame and the glamour and the luxury that models can get into and access, but they actually don't believe that they have the right look to become a model, then they'll be less willing to learn the skill and art of modeling because they don't even see themselves as someone who can be a model. So yes, desire is important, but it's also belief in your desire. And when you know that you can truly tap into an authentic belief in your desire when it's your desire, not your family's desire for you or what all of your friends are doing because if that's what they say is successful, but when it is your thing that you genuinely feel good about, enthusiastic about, and that you really feel that you were called to do in this world. Something else that he talked about was teaching how what the numerical symbols are and like how to write them and what they mean in terms of quantity. And again, just bringing back that experience from being in the classroom, y'all. I taught in the lower elementary grades. I spent time in kindergarten, pre-K, kindergarten, and also first grade. And I remember in the kindergarten through second grade math curriculum, the same concepts about counting, number recognition, addition and subtraction were almost identical in the first part of the school year for kindergarten, first and second grade. The language may have been upgraded a little bit for each grade because the students were expected to, have a different understanding of language, but the content was the same. So it's like, why was it the same? Because we didn't expect that the children would have mastered it the first time we taught it. So why aren't we teaching to mastery? Why are we just giving them a survey of the information and then just glossing past it and saying, okay, we taught this, but now the curriculum says we have to move on to the next part. And when we look up the etymology of curriculum, it means to run through. So I just thought about all of my experiences with teaching in that system and just how misaligned it really is to the actual art and mastery of learning. And then one more thing about the teachability index, because you just said something that came up, um, how you get an idea and you want to go for it, but then sometimes nothing is like percolating in the mind and you're like, well, what do I do now? And so I thought about that from the human design perspective, because that is what happens with generators when we get on that plateau phase. We have a burst of momentum where we are really excited and learning and mastering what we're learning. But then we hit this plateau where it's like, okay, now what? And it can feel so frustrating because we really have a deep desire to continue working and to continue doing and continue seeing the progress being made. But that's our cue to all right, you've done the doing enough for now. So rest a little bit, receive what's happening, because once you do that, that aha, that light bulb moment is gonna come when you least expect it, and you'll know exactly what to do. Like you said the other day with the headlights, you can only go as far as what you can see.
Thank you for sharing. You dropped a lot of gems. And the favorite quote that I actually have from audio 2 is, when your attitude is right, the facts don't count. And I have a personal story, many, many personal stories of just that whole entire experience, right? So, really briefly, to get into my story, is I got arrested because I didn't have a license. I don't use a license when I drive. There's many, many reasons why. And that's because I believe in my freedom to travel. And here in America, they will try and tax you to do an act of freedom. And I don't believe in that. So everyone will tell you it is a fact that you need a license to drive in America. Everyone will tell you you will get arrested, you will be fined, you will have all these terrible things happen to you if you do not have a license to drive. And yet, because I have the attitude that I do, that another human being cannot have authority over me, or that I have the freedom to live a life that I desire, to live a life that I deserve, I believe that I can travel freely. I believe all these things with my whole heart, and I feel good about all these things. And I had an experience where a police officer stopped me, and I didn't have a license, and they brought me to court and all these things. And of course, the facts would be I would get fined, I would get arrested, I would lose my rights to drive. And yet, here I am in my car. And my court case got dismissed magically. And it's never magic, it's always about your thinking. It's always about how you feel. It's always about what you believe. It's always about the thoughts that you put out on a consistent basis, right? And understanding that you can change any circumstance to fit to your favor. And one of the other things I wrote down is I can call forth everything I want and desire with my command because I'm the genie. And to know something and not to do it is not to know. That's also my favorite quote from the entire Your Wish is Your Command audio set. To know and not to do is not to know. Because there's times where I say, oh yeah, I know. Like, I know I should drink water. I know I should go to sleep early. I know I should exercise. I know I should not eat sugar. I know. But then here I go doing the exact opposite, doing all the things that I say I know I should and shouldn't do. Therefore, you can never truly know those things, right? So the same applies when we say, I want to have a lot of money, or I want to have a better job, I want to have a better house, I want to have a better relationship. And then we go around saying, oh yeah, I know that I should probably think better about my life. I know that I should probably work on my communication abilities. I know that I should invest in myself. But then we don't do those things. We just think about it. We just talk about it. And when you have faith without work, then it's dead, right? And I know we already kind of spoke about the working part of when successful people, they usually put work forth. But it's more of the understanding to get to that level in your life where you overpower all the habits that have brought you to the point where you're currently at. And now you transform the habits into new ones that align with the person you say you want to be. Because I could say, I know I have to save all my money if I want to be a millionaire. But then if I'm not out here saving my money, I don't know what it's like to be a millionaire, and I will never know. And I think this applies with anything in your life. And you also spoke about being at the level of learning, right? How we have to be willing to go over something hundreds of times before we finally can say that we know it. Because there's a lot of maybe really good habits that we try to do, right? People try to say, oh yeah, you only need 21 days to change your habits and all this stuff. But how many of us really only take those 21 days and then 21 days pass and then we stop doing the good habit, right? So it's like you say you know, but then you don't continue doing it. Therefore, you will never know. And a lot of the times we try to let's say, for example, that feeling of I want to be a millionaire. we're trying to do 5th grade math, and we didn't even learn how to do the numbers. We didn't even learn how to write the numbers, but we're saying, I want to go from making $1,000 every 2 months to making $1 million in a week. How are you supposed to go from 1st grade math all the way to college math if you never even went through the grades, right? If you've never practiced the good habits over and 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 over, how are you supposed to get where you want to be if you don't consistently do the work, if you're not consistent with yourself, if you're not persistent with the right habits? And even though I know we talked about doing versus thinking, doing the work does not mean actually physically doing things, right? It's about constantly thinking the right way, checking what we're thinking about, checking the words that we use. Because maybe your goal is to have $1 million a week. But if you're over here saying, I can't even save $1, that's a bad habit we have to break. Because you think you can't even save $1. How will you ever have the ability to think, I can save $1 million? Does this make sense to you guys at all? You guys, a little bit? Or am I getting,
Yes, absolutely.
am I getting too theoretical here?
No, I get it. We vibing with you.
I just feel called to touch on that, because even for myself, there's things and habits in my life where that I say I want to accomplish and achieve, but if I know these are the basics and I know that I want to become a master of them, but I'm not actually doing that, then how will I ever become a master of something that I want to achieve? I think that's the real question that I have for all of you, right? If we are always saying, oh yeah, I know I should listen to the right people, but we never even look for the people to listen to, or we never clarify what we want for ourselves, how are we supposed to know who the right people are, right? If we, say, yeah, I want my life to be different, but then we're not willing to change anything in our life, we're not willing to learn new things, we're not willing to sacrifice anything, how are we going to be successful? If we say, yeah, I know I want to have that perfect life and I got to work so hard to get there, how are we applying the why over the how, right? How are we spending the right time on the training balance scale? And if we say, oh yeah, don't worry, I know, I'll get there eventually, but we're not actually putting in the hours to get to a point where it's just who we are, versus us having to try to be there and try to get there and put in the effort and the energy. Yes, you have to do it for some time, but to really become a different person, it requires a commitment and it requires an understanding of what that person looks like, who that person is that you want to become. So I feel like right now would be a good time to just maybe we could talk about and share if anyone got to write down their ideal scene, or like the perfect life they're working towards. You don't have to share what it is, because one of the things that Kevin also talks about is not telling your dreams to people, especially to people who aren't rooting for you, and maybe they are family, but they're not trained to be successful, therefore they cannot encourage success in other people, right? Susan put in the comments here, wanting never gets you what you truly desires. It's the word want, change the word. 100%. 100% true. See, even that, just your mental attitudes, the words you use, the language you use, being willing to transform all those things and find a different way of being, right? All of that is very, very important. So what I will ask, right, is if anyone wants to share what they wrote down about their perfect ideal scene. And if you want to share, what basic do you feel like you should focus on more in order to achieve that ideal scene? If anybody would be comfortable with sharing what they wrote down, right? Maybe you didn't write it yet, but you know what it is in your mind. You kind of want to know it like you know your own name. And what basic, which of the five, do you feel, do you believe that you should focus on more in order to achieve that ideal scene? Does anybody feel comfortable sharing? Or
Um, you want to go, Dominique?
yeah,
Oh,
go ahead. Go
yeah,
ahead,
I'll go.
Dominic.
I'll go. So with mine, I wrote down. Well, I could just share like one of what I wrote down, right? And then okay. So one of them that I wrote down was I wanted to be a holistic health coach. But one of my the four of out of the four concepts that I wrote down of with the training balance scale, the main one when he said was like, 99% was the thought. And I feel like that is where I was at. Like I got so much release when I was hearing him saying all that, because I was so much in my head, even when I first discovered about, a different way of eating. I was just so much in my head, like the hows and worrying and all that. So when he was like, it's all about your thinking and everything. And I just started crying because I was like, wow, like what? Dominique, you've been beating yourself up, girl. Like get out of it. Like, so I just know I felt like mainly my reasons on why I haven't been able to get to where I need to be. It's just about me just being all in my head on the worrying and the whys and the hows. And I just know from what he was saying, I have to change all of that. Like, just get out of all of that. And that helped me tremendously. I was like, girl, like I just was in my room just going crazy. Like, what? This is it. So that helped me a lot on, everything that I'm doing right now. It just shows me a lot. Like he said, it's 99%, thoughts, it's actions and thoughts, but it's all about, your thought. And that was mainly where I was at. I just really hard down used to be all in my head and worrying all this. But when I learned that and when he said that, it just like registered to me. If I was in the room with him, I'd have been like, oh my goodness, he's talking to me. But yes, like I'm so happy to know that now and to know this information. And that's helping me really change everything now. I'm just like, you know what, girl, like, like no more, negative thoughts. So
I'm
that
so
helped.
glad you realized that.
Yes, yes.
I remember when we first spoke, and I picked that up immediately, that it was your thinking that was holding you back, and it was, it's of course it's a combination of your past experiences. And I don't think he covered it in this audio yet, but later on in the audios he talks about how there's like this big black ball of negative energy, right? Negative habits, negative thinking that we have done for so long. Because the
Mm,
group of people that he's talking to, they're people that they've worked hard already and they've, lived a long life because people paid, I think, like $50,000, $10,000, some ridiculous number to be there live. So these people are already up in their age and they've already done things to try and be successful, but clearly it didn't work. That's why they're there learning this information.
mm,
And when you begin to understand these concepts and begin to change and transform and transmute that big black ball of negative energy, in the beginning it's hard because you're going to want to go back to the old habits. You're going to go back to your old ways because it's easy to do what's familiar and what you're comfortable in, right?
mm,
But it's definitely work, right? It takes effort. It takes that applied conscious competence, right? To constantly do it at a level where you're like, okay, I know that I have to do this. a bunch of times before I can completely remove that negative black ball of energy. And now I'm at a space where this is who I am. I am a holistic wellness coach because I worked my way through my thoughts to become this person.
Mm-hmm.
I had to unlearn who I was before in order to become this person I am today.
Yes, that makes so much sense. I'd be like, yes, it's all about your thinking, because it just makes me feel good, even just thinking that and just saying that. It makes you feel different. So I just know it was all about that. So it's like that's helping me so much. And I just feel amazed by just knowing that one little thing like this. Just change it all up, you know.
Yes, I'm so happy that you shared. Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Joy, did you want to share what you wrote down and what basic you feel would help you out the most?
Yes, ma'am. And before I do that, I just want to say, Dominique, I can relate so much to what you just shared. When I was contemplating leaving the school district, that was what my goal was, to leave so I could create holistic educational offerings and coaching for people that's more aligned to exactly what we need, as opposed to what the school system and curriculums tell us that we need. So one thing I started doing every rising when I would drink my water, I would speak into the water and say that I'm a holistic wellness coach over and over again. Even though I wasn't serving in that role yet, I just kept speaking it into the water and as an affirmation, so that it could just start to be something that I embody from the inside out. So yes, girl, you definitely on the right track with that. And I'm just sending you all the love and encouragement because you got this. Now where I am with my goals and with the basic that I am working on for it, I'm at a place now where there's a specific strategy that I am ready to employ to expand my offerings and grow my platform and grow my business. So I said, I need to surround myself with the people who are actually doing this. And because I said, well, who can be my mentor? Who's gonna who can have me be their apprentice? But there's actually a community that I'm already a part of that focuses on exactly what it is that I'm trying to do, not trying to do, that I am doing. And many people in this community have already employed this strategy over and over again, and when it works for them, and I've seen the results and how it works for them. So I know that that is what I'm going to be doing, surrounding myself with them more and just learning from what they're sharing, being open to asking questions, and that the willingness to change the things that have not been working is where I am in terms of the basics. So the teachability index part of changing the things that have not been working, changing certain habits that could be taking me away from being immersed in that community, because I was spending time in other communities that may be fun or even maybe more social, but aren't exactly getting me to the goal that I desire.
Thank you for sharing. And there's a quote that came to mind. When the student is ready, the teacher will appear, or the master will appear, right? And another thing, I actually cannot recall well, I think he does say the quote, success is a decision away. And when you make a decision to commit to something, that's all you have to do. That's all the work, really. That's the how. The how is to make a decision. Well, that's really what he doesn't get to talk about in the audios, because like he said, it's a lot of information to put together in just 2 days. But the 1% of how is to make a decision. And the 99% is your thoughts and feelings towards that decision. And when you're feeling good about the decisions you make, then it doesn't matter what the facts are. The decision you have made the check has been deposited and the money is going to hit your bank account in any moment. You don't have to know when, it doesn't matter. Just know when you're feeling good about the decision you make, it's happening, period. And when you can learn from anyone, right? There's another quote that I think he may have said in Your Wish is Your Command, of the fool learns from no one, not even the wise man, but the wise man learns from the fool. And the reason why that one's coming up is because, you said you're already part of a community that is doing what you want to achieve as well. And maybe you've been a part of that community for a while, but you didn't see the value that it truly holds. And I feel like when we see the value within ourselves, within our own abilities, then we are able to see the value in everyone else, and all other things that are offered, right? That have potential. Everything has potential. It just depends what potential you give it and how you view it and how you think about it, right? And the last thing that's coming up based on what you've shared was it it doesn't matter how much time you spend at the level of learning, as long as you feel good about where you are and you fully embrace the opportunity that you have. And I congratulate you on that new opportunity and endeavor as well. Anyone else want to share, or should I go? You're welcome. I love you too. All right, I'm gonna go, and then we have about like 10-ish minutes left. And if Antoine or Susan, you want to share, you can totally let us know. For me, I feel right now I'm kind of in a similar stage of who do you listen to. And before the meeting started, I told you guys I have an opportunity that has been going great, and I'm just very excited about it. And it's also in the wellness field. But I was also kind of questioning, like, who can I learn from? Who are the people that I want to be like, and not necessarily be like them, but who has the life that I want to live? And I feel like I've found many different mentors in many different aspects. Kind of like what we were talking about at our first meeting, of just, you can go to certain people for certain things and be willing to learn from them and discern what you want to take and what you don't. And when my thinking became right in terms of not really worrying and not stressing about, how I'm going to pay my gas, how I'm going to buy food, how I'm going to do all the things that I want to do to live life, right? I've been presented an opportunity to work with someone who fits that idea of the life that I want to live. I want to help people on a global scale. I want to be able to teach people about detoxifying the body and being in a state of wellness. And I want to be able to travel freely and, all the things, make money. And when I least expected it, the opportunity presented itself. And I've just been feeling so amazing about the opportunity. And I also feel that I'm getting to a point in my training, right, with Your Wish is Your Command, that I'm so close to this point of mastery, because I've been listening to Your Wish is Your Command for maybe like 3 years now, and I can quote things like left and right, but it's not just about being able to say it, but am I living it? And the way that I know that I'm living it is based on the experiences I have, how my life is going. And I have all these opportunities coming my way and all these people that align with the things that I want to do. And it's because I feel like I'm finally making the decisions that truly align with the dream life, the ideal state that I wrote about when I first heard Your Wish is Your Command. And I never knew that I would see this day. You know, it was kind of like a wish, kind of like an idea. And I just let things play out. You know, I focused on my thoughts a lot. I focused on my feelings a lot. I worked a lot on how I saw myself. And I worked a lot on eliminating things, right? Different music, TV, environments from my daily routines, and changed who I listened to. And I completely transformed as a person. And I feel like I can confidently say that I've become like a master of the basics. And that's after doing it over and over and over and over and over again, and having success in all different aspects of my life, in my health. Not so much my finances, because my health was a main priority, but my finances, I feel like now I'm at the point where a miracle is dangling over my head, because I've been continuing my training and becoming a master of the basics. So thank you guys for letting me share. Does anyone else want to share anything that they're working towards in terms of like an ideal scene, and a basic that they feel would help them to reach that ideal scene quicker? Yes, you're welcome. Thank you for listening. Susan or Antoine, either of you want to share, or you don't want to share today?
Well, I won't share my ideal scene, I keep it for myself. About what I need to improve in order to attain this scene, well, it's my attitude, of course, because even when I know the how and I am working on that, I still keep thinking at this, and I don't understand. And I would like to love more what I am doing, because I have some troubles with that, and I would like to love more what I do. It's very important for me.
Yes. Thank you for sharing. And I, of course, like I said, guys, in terms of sharing your dreams with other people, keep it to yourself until it's no longer a dream, right? But with the, can I make some suggestions maybe? Either with anything that you read or anything that you're listening to, and when you're working on the ideal scene, do you think your feelings are in the right place, or do you feel like it's dreadful or frustrating?
When I'm thinking about the ideal scene, I feel good. When I'm thinking about the things I have to do in order to attain it, well, it's different.
So maybe, right? Because this is why the quote of "to know and not to do is not to know," right? Maybe you say you know the things you have to do to achieve your ideal scene, but you haven't done them yet, right? Or maybe you have done them, but you're not living that ideal scene yet. So maybe there's something else in your radar screen, outside your radar screen, that you don't know about yet, right? You don't know what you don't know. That's what you actually will have to do, will have to go through in order to reach your ideal scene. That's kind of what I shared about my story earlier, of like the things that I had to go through in order to get to this point where I feel now. I didn't even know. They just came out of left field, and yet somehow I'm at a place where I feel basically perfect. So definitely spending more time doing things that bring you joy. Whenever you feel that your thoughts are no longer aligned with your actions, right? Like, even though we make our to-do list and we think that we know the right steps to take, maybe they're not the right steps for us, right? Maybe it's just what we hear other people do, but then you want to look at those people's entire lives, not just what they say they did. Look at what they actually do, not just what they say, if that makes sense.
Mm, yeah, it makes sense.
Good. I'm glad. I'm glad. And just, I think too, did you ever watch the Kevin Trudeau show about prayer? It just came out maybe last week.
Yeah, of course, I watched it. I'm working on that.
I think that may help a lot. I know for me, that helped me a lot with that feeling of, doing the right thing. Like, always thinking of all the things that I had to do to reach to this point. But once I surrendered, once I fully let go, and once I do a lot of 68 seconds as well. I don't know if are you familiar with the 68-second practice?
Yeah.
I do that at least once every day. At least once every day, and at least once every day. And if you want like mega effects, you could do it more. Once
Okay.
yes, before we go, I'll share a little bit more about the 68 seconds. So basically, the 68 seconds is an intentional focus. That means that you want to focus on how you feel during that moment, and you can choose any feeling that you want, basically. And depending on if you truly understand and know what your desire is, you can focus on that in the visual aspect, right? So seeing yourself in attainment of what you desire, however it looks in your mind. But if you don't have a visual yet, you can simply focus on the feeling that you want to have. And all you could put a timer on your phone, or I have a little hourglass that you just flip it, and it's literally 68 seconds. And you focus on that one thing for exactly 68 seconds. And this locks in the vibration of what you're focusing on, because the human mind only focuses for about 30 seconds. So now you just doubled it, and then the extra 8 seconds actually makes it of vibration. He's gonna talk a little bit more about this in the next couple audios. But when you send out that focus, what you put out must come back to you. So when you're focusing on it, whatever it is, for 68 seconds, it becomes an actual vibration into the universe. And what you put out must come back to you. So when you do it often enough, right? This becomes a unconscious habit, you're kind of just always putting out vibrations of what you want. Therefore, it always comes back to you. And that's the life that you live, the experiences that you have. But with the 68 seconds, it's more intentional. It's like you actually physically sit there for the minute and 8 seconds, and you focus on that one thing that you desire, and send it out, and you just release all attachment. If it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, it doesn't. You sent it out, and therefore you put trust in the universe that is going to return to you. And when you do this often enough, it it's like magic virtually. It's virtually real life magic. So yeah, you're very welcome. When we get to, I think, the audio number 5. So very soon, guys. You guys are gonna learn a little bit more about that if you don't already know about it. So before we head out today, does anyone have any last questions, any last comments? Antoine, how you feeling?
A little better.
I'm glad I made your day a little better. I'm glad we made it a little better. Thank you for being here. Thank you, all of you, for being here. Even if I just see your little avatars and you only texted in the chat, your presence is still felt. It is still appreciated. If you're watching the recording, ditto. Your presence is still felt, is still appreciated. And I hope that each of you receives so much value and benefit from this mastermind, and that you learn something new that you can take with you and will lead you to your life of success. All right, guys, I'm going to stop the recording.